She is the single mum who's been travelling the world with her kids on just $100 a day. At age 41, Lara Flanagan was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and was told she was destined to a life in a wheelchair. After struggling to accept the news, she eventually took control of her condition to embrace the best life has to offer.
Selling everything she owned since last year, she and her 9-year-old twins have been setting out on the ultimate adventure around the globe, all while inspiring others with her message of hope. And
Lara Flanagan is an ambassador for MS Australia and she joins us now. Welcome to the show, Lara.
Thank you very much.
Now, how did you take the news, when you received your diagnosis of, you having multiple sclerosis?
I don't think I took it very well at all at first. I think I became very dark and twisted for a few months, and then I went into an elaborate process of denial. And it wasn't actually till a year after my initial diagnosis when I went back to my neurologist expecting to be told it was a mistake, when I was told that new MRI scans revealed that my disease was active and progressing and that I was headed for a wheelchair, that it actually finally sunk in and I began to even attempt to try to process it and deal with it.
Yeah. Lara, you've been managing the symptoms with a very strict diet. How's that helping out?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's a program called Overcoming Multiple Sclerosis, and it gave me hope when initially I had none. And it's basically about lifestyle management, which gives, I think, sufferers of any autoimmune disease a chance of looking into the future and seeing something positive rather than something negative.
What's involved with it? What are you eating?
I eat a whole food plant-based diet, so basically a vegan diet. I have flax oil supplementation, high vitamin D supplementation, regular exercise, meditation, and so it's all sort of a package and a completely different outlook. So yeah.
A condition of this nature naturally would change anyone's perspective on life, but I guess thrown to the fact that you have 2 children, how did you approach it?
Initially I didn't approach it well at all. I think I saw myself as a single mum with kids who were very young, and I saw myself as being a burden and possibly someone who would be detrimental to them, and so initially I didn't approach it very well at all. I also didn't reach out to anyone, so it took me about 18 months to 2 years to actually finally realise that I could deal with this and I could take it on a different level, and I could also teach my kids that there's always hope.
Absolutely, and you've certainly done that, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've sold everything, you went on an amazing international adventure. Tell us, what you've done.
Well, what we've done is we've just spent the last 9 months travelling around the world, very much on a budget. So we spent 3 months in the States, 3 months in Costa Rica and 3 months in Italy, so yeah.
Wow. But the kids loved that.
Yeah, they did. There's some amazing highlights, and I had the opportunity. We come from a very small country town in Tenterfield, and it was a chance to see, show them everything that's out there in the world, and also that anything's possible is the message I wanted to give them.
And you've been able to do this on $100 a day?
Yeah, we very much budget travelled, so we did a combination of things like house sitting, and I discovered things like work exchange programs where you worked in exchange for accommodation and board. So we spent 2 months in a tiny little walled village in Tuscany, working with a family, and our work was speaking English, so the kids loved it, as did I. So,
in that 9 months, you must have seen a real interesting evolution of your family with your kids, because they're essentially growing up so quickly by seeing all of these things. What have you noticed in that regard?
I noticed that I saw a knowledge in the world. Like, we were in America for pre and post the elections, and that opened up discussions which I would never have had. We went to Atlanta and they couldn't understand why Martin Luther King was so famous because he fought for a race. They couldn't understand that race was an issue. In Costa Rica, we volunteered in a little community centre teaching English, and the kids learnt what it means to have and to have not. And I think to be with them and have those conversations and to be living in Tuscany with a life that was so simple gave me an appreciation of what kids are capable of absorbing and understanding as
well.
And
a world away from Tenterfield.
Huge. Well, our first day in New York was a disaster because I hadn't expected how big it would be, and I thought I'd be like Sarah Jessica Parker or someone fabulous, and we all ended up in tears. It was too much because I didn't realise how big a deal it was for all of us, but we came good and we overcame Central Park and had a fabulous time. But I think for a little while I didn't understand what a big process it was for the three of us.
You've really taken on your diagnosis now,
Yes.
Lara, and embraced life in every facet of it. But what's your message to somebody out there who has just been diagnosed with MS?
I think the first time you get diagnosed, you're faced with a horror and a despair and a loneliness. There's also a lot of misinformation about MS, and a lot of times it's an invisible disease. You can't see that someone's suffering. And what I would recommend is people do is use the support and the services of someone like MS Australia, who offer so much of a network of fellow sufferers for the family, for friends, and they offer knowledge and they also offer hope, which is something I wished I'd done earlier. But when you get first diagnosed, what you want is, you don't want negativity, you want hope, and there is so much hope out there.
Well, Lara, thank you so much for talking to us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Lara.
Thank you.
And you can join Lara at the MS Walk and Fun Run in Sydney, Melbourne and Canberra. All the details are on our website.